All right, and we are live. Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, Lisa. I am so
Hi.
excited to have the one and only Lisa DeMartino. Some of you may know Lisa already from Deep Dives in the Desert, which I have been on as well recently. And it's always great to chat with Lisa. And I'm so excited to have her here on my channel and to share her new intuitive reading offerings and get to know her a little bit more because I'm used to seeing her in the interviewer seat. So it'll be fun to get to know her a little bit more here today. Before we dive in, for those who don't know Lisa, who aren't familiar, I'm going to read Lisa's bio for you all, so you get a little peek into what she's all about, and then we'll get into the conversation. So Lisa is from a stay-at-home mom to a published author and intuitive guide. Lisa's journey into the unseen has been anything but ordinary. As the author of Visions of Shadows and Stars, she has spent years exploring the deeper layers of existence, tuning into energies, receiving downloads of wisdom, and helping others gain clarity on their life's path. What started as personal revelations soon became something more. As Lisa's intuitive abilities grew, so did her understanding of how energy moves through and around us. Friends and strangers alike would find her insights not just accurate, but profoundly healing. This led her to offer readings and guidance professionally, creating Visions Beyond the Desert as a space for those seeking truth, connection, and transformation. Lisa believes that everyone has access to their own intuitive power. Her role isn't to tell you what to do, it's to help you connect the dots, uncover new possibilities, and embrace the wisdom that's already within you. Whether through psychic readings, energy field exploration, or spiritual coaching, her goal is to offer honest, compassionate guidance that helps you step forward with confidence and clarity. This isn't about predictions, it's about empowerment. And I really love the way that you frame your work because it really resonates with the way that I work as well. And I think that empowerment and helping people to find their own answers, to find confirmation in their own inner wisdom is just it's where it's at. And I think that it is so cool that you are offering this.
Thank
And
you.
uh, I will pull up your website so we can show folks that as well, because it is a beautiful site.
Thank
So you can
you.
see here, oh, I'm all the way at the bottom. So you got psychic readings, spiritual guidance, and definitely go over here, folks, to check out her website, see what she's offering. There's so much information here. You can see the different offerings that she has, and we're going to get more into what she's all about and what she brings to these readings. But definitely, if you guys want to know more, check it out. And definitely, if you haven't already, make sure you check out her book. I've been reading my own copy, and it's so enlightening. It's so cool to hear other people's stories and just your heart and your honesty, your humbleness. I mean, your being comes through in your words, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. So, hello, Lisa. I've talked for a long time. Welcome. Um, if you want to just say a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, that would be great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you too. I'm really excited. Um, I, kind of started on my journey like everybody else, just kind of trying to figure it all out. And that's why I wrote the book, because coming from where I was in this like very conservative Catholic, kind of place to kind of starting to meditate and finding out all this stuff was going on right under my nose that I had no idea. Um, and I was just like, oh, there's going to be a lot of people, like me, who came from this like more religious whatever background, and were like, wait, what? So I just kind of wanted to write the book, and that snowballed into now, offering sessions with people and things like that. But it is important to me for people to realize, like, there's nothing special about people that do this. We don't have something you don't, or there's not some magic anything that you do. It's trust and faith in yourself. It's openness and a willingness to kind of learn and to kind of grow in places that you wouldn't even really look at before, unless it was like a sci-fi movie maybe. But that's where that kind of stuff lived for me. It was like movies, books, that's it. And then it just became part of my life now, and it is my life now. So yeah, that's me. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really resonate with your discussions of kind of breaking away from your religion because those of you who saw my show last week, I talked a little bit about my awakening and my journey. And while we definitely grew up in different situations and different specifics, I think I really resonated with the way that you talked about losing your religion and how that shaped kind of your exploration into something beyond and really turning to yourself, because I found the same, that I had to go inside and stop listening to everyone else's opinion and everyone else's voice and everyone else's take, and really look at what was true for me and what was resonating for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree. And it's so important to do that because, you know, you're going to have an experience that's different than my experience. It doesn't make it any less. And as this stuff develops, you get an understanding. It's good for us to have these groups where we can all kind of go in and chats. And I made so many friends that way. It's where I met Corbin. It's where I ultimately ended up meeting you, and in Souls chats and on another channel, and well, a couple other channels. But it was a catalyst for us to kind of come together. And I think that time period of time when we were all in lockdown and kind of could quiet the busyness of our lives, we had an opportunity to kind of start questioning things, going down some rabbit holes, looking at things. And that's really when my personal abilities really started taking off, because I was meditating, oh my gosh, hours and hours a day. I would not exaggerate to say there were days that I would be doing this for like 7 hours. I mean, sometimes five, six, but yeah, I had 7 hour days. It's crazy to think about, but I think it was necessary at the moment for me. I don't do that now, nothing close to it. I'm lucky if I can get an hour in these days, but um, I don't know. I think that for me, meditation was the catalyst. What was that for you?
For me, it was, I don't know. I feel like I struggled to get into meditation for a long time, and I still, I don't necessarily struggle to get into it, but the regular practice of it is challenging for me. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And I want to know more about your take on that too. But I think for me, it was really tarot and
Mm.
realizing that, and I didn't really believe it 100% at first. I was pretty skeptical, but seeing the ways that friends of mine were able to pull cards and get these messages, it was just like, it was just this whole new world for me. And I think similarly for you, growing up in religion, there was a lot of like demonization of tarot and of anything really like esoteric or spiritual, or um, like I remember my parents even not letting us play with Pokemon cards because it was too close to Yu-Gi-Oh, which was too close to demons. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, it was really tarot that was the first like solid thing that brought me in. But thinking back on it, I definitely had moments of meditation that I didn't necessarily call meditation, and that was kind of stemming from prayer and having prayer as a practice, and
Mhm.
then kind of breaking out and then kind of doing a similar thing, like talking to something out
Yep.
there. um the listening part came a little bit later, where I learned to listen a little bit more to the responses. But it's always
It's harder.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's harder. It's harder to do that and to quiet your mind because we're so used to being so busy, in our minds. And I was interviewing a remote viewer, and he was talking about an interaction he had with a reptilian when he was
Mhm.
remote viewing him, and he was saying that um, the the reptilian was saying to him, you're also distracted. We did that on purpose. He said, the phone was an idea to keep us like this and not looking out and listening and being involved in all of the rest of this. It was like the plan. And he
Mhm.
was like, you're agitated, you're distracted all the time, you guys can't focus. And he was like laughing, and he was like, how far you think you're going to get kind of with being able to remote view and to do those kind of things, because you guys are completely unfocused. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, if you did want to mess with a culture, a society, it's really smart. They're clever. And
Hmm.
it's interesting to think that they were coming up with, you know what we should do is just put a screen in front of their face, and they'll never lock into anything bigger or anything, because they're going to be too busy worrying about what somebody's wearing or the next trend, or you know
Oh yeah.
some 20-second videos. And it's true. You think about it, like, it's harder for me to read now. Do you find that? Because
Mhm.
you're so used to everything being like right now, that trying to like slow down and do so, it feels like it takes too long, or, because you're used to 15-second snippets.
Oh yeah, I'm so grateful for my parents and my upbringing, where they really forced us to not be on our phones. They forced us to go outside. They forced us to read. TV was very limited, and so I feel like I carried some of that into my adulthood, and that helped me to at least at times like recognize. But I found that attention span is shorter, and it's almost like you have to like reorient yourself into a different frame of mind to then get into a book and read a book. Or Corbin and I have had a great time reading aloud together and reading books together, because it's a little more conversational that way. Super great. But yeah, it's once you start seeing outside of the narrative and what is being pumped and fed to us, you do start to see those clever ways that they are working to distract us, to keep us focused on the wrong thing. And when you were talking, I thought about Pokemon Go. I don't know if anyone's played Pokemon Go, but I was like very heavily into that game for a while. And the whole thing was get outside and walk, and yet when you're doing that, your head's just in your phone the whole time.
Yeah.
And so we realized that even though we were going outside, we weren't really outside. We were still in our phones, and it was that
Yeah.
same like distraction. And so I think it really points us back to, again, like listening to your discernment and listening to what feels good and what builds you up, what is more loving and positive, versus what is telling you that you're not good enough, or that you need this or that or the other thing to be happy. And yeah.
Yeah, my guidance told me that that was the goal. That the density, they were telling me that we used to be in a higher density. So when we're looking at like the pyramids and all those times, we were in a very different um, density at that time, and then it kind of started to go down, and those beings kind of left, and we were becoming more and more dense, and then we went into that like more of like a even more dense, but it was still higher than it is now. And that's when there were elementals that were around,
Mm,
and like that dragons and all of that kind of stuff. That was like lower density than when they were building the pharaoh. They had the pharaohs and everything, but it's still more than now. And then that we got even more dense from that. We stopped interacting with like plants and all of those kind of things, and then they kind of left, or not really leave, but we're just not in the same space as them anymore. And
mhm.
then now we're living in this, and the plan was to get us 2D. And I was like, how do you get 2D from that? And it was the screens. They were showing me those virtual things, and they were saying, if you're looking at a plan where people are in 15-minute cities, the apartments would have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And they were saying, you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy. Then they were going to start trying to feed us bugs instead of food. So we were going to live in this virtual world where we could eat whatever we wanted. If we wanted to go to a beach, we would go to a beach. We'd be in these big palatial estates and things like that. And our whole world would exist in virtual reality. And that's how they got us to 2D. And they said eventually the plan was to just utilize our consciousness, and we wouldn't even incarnate in physicality anymore. I was like, oh my God. Can you? I mean, that's what my guidance was showing me. So I just thought that was incredible. And you can't even think about like getting more dense than this, but I guess 2D is, right? It's
Right.
like you don't even have a physicality anymore. Everything that you have is existing on this screen.
Wild, wild stuff. I mean, it makes me think of the Matrix and, those ways that we've had that kind of soft disclosure of what the actual plan is, right in front of us, masqueraded as fiction. And, those moments where, if you're looking for it, you can see the truth underneath it. And I mean, I recently watched The Matrix as an awakened rather than before, and it is just a wild trip. Like, if you haven't watched it recently, I definitely recommend everyone watch it recently.
I have to go back and watch it. And I was telling Johnny about that after I had that interaction with my guidance. And he said, there's a movie like that. And I'm like, you know what? That doesn't even surprise me. It doesn't even surprise me because they always let us know in some form or fashion. And we're
Mhm,
just like, oh, that's interesting. We don't connect dots because why would
mhm.
we think like that? But yeah, they told me that was the plan.
Fascinating. And so, is that still happening, or is that, what is your guidance on kind of the fruition of that plan? Is it still on the table? Because I've heard a lot of different opinions around kind of what timeline we're on, or like what trajectory we're on. I'd be curious to know your take on that.
So my guidance tells me that, we're in a multiverse and that there are, um, every second we're actually changing where we are. So we're constantly shifting and it's almost more like, remember when you used to draw pictures on the bottom of your page and then you'd flip it
Mhm,
and you could see the movement of it. They were saying to me it's more like that than it's a fluid motion,
mhm,
because it's snippets moment after moment after moment. And so we have like these fractal moments all the time. It's faster than even a second. Um, and so depending on what's going on with us, whether, we're having something positive or negative, we're constantly shifting in and out of these realities. So these all exist in the field. And there are timelines where it's negative and there are timelines where it's positive, and it's more about your resonance and where you are, where you kind of land. So,
mm,
if you string together several moments where, like, say you got in a car accident or something terrible and it put you in a bad mood, and then you were kind of going on and on about it for a while, and now things start happening in this other timeline where, it's a more negative timeline for you. But if you stay in that energy and you stay in that, now you're stringing together more and more moments and you've moved yourself onto a more negative timeline.
mm,
And they were telling me that's kind of how it works. So if you see that things are kind of going wrong for you and you're just having one thing after another, it's like, okay, thank you very much for showing me where I'm at, but I choose to be in a better timeline than this. I am changing my mood. I'm changing my attitude. And they tell me, go watch something funny, like something that makes you laugh. Go put music on that nostalgically makes you feel good and you want to dance or you want to sing and get your mood up, because that's the first step, is like to get your energy different, and then you won't be in those. But they all exist. So there could be timelines where you're at, but where you put your focus is the one that you're going to experience in that moment. And that doesn't mean that the others don't exist in the field. So, but they also told me that, all of consciousness is moving forward in this ascension process. So, um, some of these lower energy, lower density, things, they're not going to be able to stay in the trajectory that they were, because we're moving away from that lower density stuff. And it's not something where, evil people or bad people are kind of going to have a choice. What's going to happen is they're going to fall so far out of resonance that they're literally going to stop existing. So it's almost like the particles in that resonance of that frequency hertz aren't going to be able to maintain their spin, is the way it was shown to me. And they're literally, it's going to kind of break up. So we're going to see people just kind of fall out of our awareness. And, some people are going to die or they're going to leave the planet in some other way because they can't hold the frequency that the higher frequencies are going to. And everything's kind of shifting up. It's not just us. They were showing me like our whole, I'm sorry, I was just looking, they're just showing me something now, but it was our solar system and the arm of our galaxy and the universe. And then just now I was looking at like universes, like all around. It's like, it's
mm.
all like it looks like a sweep. Like it looks like a sweep up. So I don't, I don't know what that's going to look like. Cause I was thinking to myself too, like, what about places where it works differently and it is a more negative existence? Did they just kind of go away? or can they exist somewhere else in like another dimension, another way? I don't know. It's interesting.
Very. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of the ways that I work with the future through future life progression, and we tap into different timelines, and we're able to um, kind of help you suss out what's going to be the best possible one for you. And it really is about where you put your focus. And I've heard this from a lot of different sources too. And I love that when you get the same message from different people who aren't talking to each other at all, because I feel like it gives just helps to clarify what we're seeing and what we're experiencing. Because I mean, I've seen this with my own reality and the ways that my perception and the ways that I am feeling or I'm thinking, or what frequency I'm at, it really affects what's going on around me. And you can see, the somewhat or seemingly random events that pop up, and when you start to think about it and you start to see with clearer vision, you start to see how they tie in, and it really is about what's going on inside that then is reflected outside.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I had such a push and pull with it as it was like kind of coming to me, and I honestly I still do, because I think to myself like there's a level of humanity that comes from it. We're given all these emotions, right? We have them all. They're here. We get angry, we get jealous, we get hateful, we get all of these things that we have the propensity to do. We try not to live there or to have those things, but they're here for the
Hmm.
human experience of being here. So are we supposed to be moving away from that and trying not to do that? Is it okay to have those? We're just not supposed to live there. Like, how does it go? And the way that it was being presented to me was it's all existing in the field, and God consciousness doesn't look at it as a negative. It just is.
Hmm.
And we look at it that way because it's something that we don't prefer, and we realize when we kind of go into those things, then we have the type of timelines that we don't prefer.
Hmm.
So it's a matter of kind of doing, but God consciousness, it's all just part of it, right? So I don't know. It's there's part of it that's human, and we have these things, but I think that it's just the realization that maybe it doesn't always work for us, and we're in a density right now where duality is a thing, and maybe we're trying to graduate, and just go,
It
maybe not.
Yeah, it really is such a fascinating topic, and I feel like, I mean, we could talk for days about this, and everyone has their own opinion, and I think that comes from, again, our perceptions and the ways that we understand and view reality, then again shape how we understand it. And so I definitely have found with the work that I do similarly, because I work with the higher self, I work with source essentially. We're tapping into that part of you that is still connected to the God consciousness, and um, there is there's always this neutrality in a sense from that higher self, where it's not viewing the things you're doing in this good bad polarity, because the polarity is here, the duality is here in our reality, but at that level it's just
Love
not
it.
viewed in the
Yeah.
same way. It's about balance, and it's about um the ways that we're here for experience. And if you're experiencing a lot of that negative, well, then you need to balance it out with experiencing some of the positive. And that's where we have multiple lives, and we can have more than one try at experiencing whatever we're looking to experience. But it is interesting to think about what's going to happen as we move into these higher frequencies, and into this this new earth, this new world that we're moving towards. And so many of us are focused on building. um, and I've heard a lot of those opinions about, are they going to go to another planet or another dimension, or there's a vastness to the cosmos that we just can't really completely wrap our minds around. um, which, speaking of the multiverse, and kind of this understanding that you have of the universe, which I share, I definitely agree that there is this multiverse aspect, and it's all times and all locations all happening at once. And um, again, we've had some movies that have shown us this, whether it be the Marvel movies, or I think I talked to you guys about the Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. Such a cool depiction of that multiverse reality. But do you want to share a little bit about how you came to this understanding, and I definitely don't expect you to explain to us the intricacies of the cosmos because I think it's beyond any of us. But what are some of those experiences that shaped this view and kind of opened your eyes to this multiverse?
I think I became open to it. Well, first of all, I was kind of a geek, and I would when my boys were little, in my 20s, and I guess in my 30s too, I would read physics books, just because I found it super interesting, and I loved Brian Greene's work, and so I would listen to, him speak if he was on something talking about a book, and then I'd buy the book, and so I was always kind of interested in that. From a perspective, but I found Marina Jacobi, one of my chat friends, had told me about her, and I was listening to her, and I had a hard time wrapping my brain around her at first. Kind of listening to her, there was some stuff that was similar to what I knew, but a lot of it was really different. But I think she was the first person that spoke about it in those terms, and she was saying that the way that she explained it was that it's like having all the channels on your cable television, right? And they're all existing right now, but whichever one you're tuning into is the one you're actually watching. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that all the others disappear. They're there. If you turn the channel, they're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that's the one you're focusing on. And it made sense to me. And I could kind of go, okay, I could see how that could be. And then when I started having visions, I started seeing things from different times. And at first I was like, okay, that looked like it was ancient somewhere, I don't know, Roman or Greek or something. And then they started going where I was trying to put times on them. And I started seeing times that I was in, but I was seeing me. Like I saw a version of myself in the 80s, and I looked very much like I looked in the 80s. And I had something kind of horrific happened to me in that timeline. And that didn't happen. And it was during a meditation. And when I went back and kind of asked about it later on, that's what they were saying. They're saying, well, this is why you feel this way. And this is one of the things that had kind of happened on another timeline. And so you kind of had set yourself up in your life where you were going to make sure those things, weren't happening. And I was just like, wow, okay, that's interesting. And then I started seeing things that looked very futuristic. And so it kind of set me on that path where it was like, not only was I hearing things that I could go, that makes sense, but I started seeing them myself. And so, it's hard to like gaslight yourself about everything when you kind of start seeing things that you kind of go, okay, but how do I disregard that, I saw it. So,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I guess how does the multiverse aspect fit into your sessions and your readings for folks? Have you found that there's a lot of the multiverse like affecting clients, or have you had moments where you've needed to kind of look into it for folks to help them understand what they're seeing? I'd be curious to hear kind of what that
so
looks like in your sessions.
yeah. So when I am gonna meet somebody, at least at this point, I try to meditate on them. I really, in a perfect world, want to do it the day before, because what I'm finding is that things keep kind of coming in, and I don't shut it down. So I allow that. It feels like once I open that door, I'll many times, not all the time, I'll continue to get some things. So I like to meditate the day before. And then if they had specific questions, I try to like look into that. But the first meditation that I do for someone, I'm not doing it with any expectation. I'm just looking. And so I'll share what I was getting with that. And it runs the gamut. It's really interesting. That's why it was so hard for me to write down like what the sessions are,
Hmm.
because, and I just put one-on-one sessions because it's like, it's very different. And depending on who I'm talking to, I mean, because we're all very different, right? But I don't necessarily get the same things for everybody. I've had some of the newer things that I've had were several times now. I think for four of my last few sessions, I've had people that passed away. that
Mm,
were present. And that's pretty new for me, except for myself, where I've had interactions with things, a couple of times, that people that had passed in my family. I didn't have it where I was interacting with people's loved ones, and that's happening. Um, so that's newer. I'm also getting physical sensations with things, and sometimes I don't know what it means. So I'm literally Googling, like, what does it mean when you have a pain behind your eye and a tingling on the temple? And, and I'm trying to figure out like spiritual meanings of these things because I know it has something to do with them, not me.
mm,
So I will, look um, into those things. And it's been so weird is when that's happening, they're whatever it is, the spiritual meaning behind it, they're like, yes, that's it. So
mhm.
I don't know. It's hard to answer that question about the multi universe because it doesn't come in those terms. It more comes, I'm just giving you what I'm seeing or I'm giving you what I'm getting. And it's kind of running the gamut.
Yeah. Very fascinating. Thank you for sharing. I definitely resonate with that, the individuality of people, because I find that it can be challenging to explain what a hypnosis session is going to be like for someone because it really is such an individual experience, and it really makes sense you working in the subtle realms like this that it would be a similar individual experience, and based on where that person is, what they're going through, what's coming up for them. I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense. Do you find that um it's challenging to determine, or maybe at this point it's not because you have a lot of practice, but I definitely have seen a lot of people struggle with understanding what's theirs and what's someone else's, or what's their feeling or their
Mm.
message versus what's the collective and that they're picking up. um
I don't think as much anymore. Like I'm real clear on what my energy feels like, even when my energy's off, and it has been lately. Truthfully, just because I'm dealing with a family member that's not doing very well, so I've been having like a lot of stuff lately, and I can feel the difference with that. But I'm thank you, Ken. I
right,
appreciate that.
thank you,
Thank you
Ken.
very much. That was fun. But I can tell the difference because it comes in differently. It comes in from the outside. It's not like when you have an emotions and feelings, you kind of feel that percolating from the inside out. It's the reverse. So something will start to kind of come in, um, not always on my right side, but it can. And then I'm starting to get kind of downloads about it and feelings about it. And sometimes I'll have a literal like apparition or a person that kind of will appear. Um, Not super often, but it does happen. Or I'm closing my eyes to do something else. Once I was in the shower and I literally had this like huge being in my vision, not physically standing in front of me, but it was like it's like you looking with your eyes, but you're seeing something else. And it was a very odd looking being. It was nothing I've ever seen before. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I was just like, what was going on? There was no talking or even um, like a telepathic kind of a communication. It was just more being present. I felt like it wasn't mine or it wasn't something that had to do with me. I did have a session. I still couldn't draw the, why, or exactly what it was. I mention it just because, if this person, but it's like you said, there are so many. I mean, look at the background of your picture. There are so many stars. All
Hmm.
of those are suns, right? How many of them have planets and how many of them have somebody that's living on them? And every iteration, and we thought, oh, they got to live in the Goldilocks zone. No, my guidance told me, yeah, they got to live in the Goldilocks zone to look like you and to breathe like you. But there's a ton of places where they don't look like you and breathe like you and need your air. And, those places are inhabited too. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. So I don't know. Those kind of things happen too, and I don't know exactly everything all the time. Like I know I'm still developing, but it's super fun. It's really interesting. And I'm sure you're the same way, but I am so amazed at how incredible we are. and just the differences of like people's experiences, like I'm impressed. I don't know. I just look
Oh
at
yeah.
people and I'm like, wow, like you're an incredible person.
Oh yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I just love working with people and helping them to, find the confidence in themselves to trust what's coming through, and really seeing the ways that people can transmute their lives and the painful moments, the hurt, the challenges into beauty and into strength and into, you know, a life mission that is just helping so many people. It really is truly, truly cool. And while we're on the subject of readings, and thank you, Ken, for shouting out Lisa, because we love you, Ken, and Lisa is
Awesome.
amazing. Make sure
Ah,
you guys go and check out her website and check out her offerings. You can go and book your psychic readings, 30-minute, hour, and then the meditation session as well, which I really want to dig into with you too, because it's a unique offering. While we're on the subject of announcements, though, I did forget earlier to share with you guys that I am doing a group past life regression workshop next week. So this is going to be a live Zoom event. It's $22. It's on March 8th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So I know that not everyone in the world is going to be able to make that time. But if you are able to, I would love to see you there. It's going to be a moment of transformation, and I think some big shifts as we move towards the astrological new year happening at the end of March. So make sure you guys check the details out there. I'll make sure to link that in the video description below, as well as on my site too. But wanted to share that while we were here. Let's see, get back to us. On the topic of your meditation offerings, I love this idea because I myself, as I've admitted, have struggled a little bit with meditation at times in my life. And I think a lot of times people have expectations around what it should be or what it's going to be like for them. Um, I definitely understand that each person is unique and there's going to be nuance to that. So definitely book a reading with Lisa if you want to deep dive into meditation practices, get some one-on-one guidance into that. But is there any, common themes that you see, or any kind of collective advice that you could give us in regards to meditation, what you found through your experiences?
you know, everybody's different. But I find that the biggest thing that I'm hearing is people have a hard time quieting their mind and being able to um, focus in on, what they're trying to manifest or they're trying to bring in. And the more you focus on the fact that you can't focus, the harder it is. You know,
Mhm.
you have to kind of let go. And for me, what I've found is that rather than trying to keep yourself in this very rigid, I can't, okay, I'm thinking about the groceries. No, I can't think about the groceries right now. I wonder if I got gas. Okay, let me not think about the gas right now. And you keep doing that, and you're kind of keeping yourself in that frenzy of doing things. And so for me, I visualize expanding out past it. So rather than keeping myself in that where I'm like, no thoughts and feelings can come in, I can't think about anything else. I'm more like, thank you very much. I see you. And then I just kind of expand past it and just go like, out more in and I can help with kind of how you do that. But you just kind of go out past it. It's like your awareness is beyond that, is beyond your 3D right here, right now, and all of the things that you have, because it's all going to be here when you're done, right? So you don't have to worry about losing anything by moving past it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful advice. And Corbin saying shower bathtub. I find the water is very helpful for channeling.
Right? There's something about water. And I
Mhm.
got, even before I was awake, I would get my best self uh, explanations, or when you give yourself advice, when I would be in the shower, right? You start thinking about things, and all of a sudden things were clearer to me. And I think that's true for a lot of people. It's just a conduit for
Mhm.
that openness and that connection.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with Veda Austin's work as well, or Dr. Emoto.
Yes. Yep.
So the water consciousness, I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Is the
I'm
consciousness of
seeing
water.
it so much. That water is a big deal, and I've even seen iterations of water that are different than the way that we know it now. Um, Makes sense, right? I guess if we're different in different dimension and different areas, that it would be too. Even on this planet, it was very
Yeah.
different, and I saw it. Like it looked so different in Lemuria. It was almost like a thicker consistency. But I saw one of my sessions that I did. There was one of my clients was off planet working with water, and water was the most important aspect of whatever it was that they were trying to do. It's so much more than we realize. We're really just scratching the surface. And I mean, when we find out exactly what's going on inside the planet in terms of where water is and the beings and stuff that are helping with that, the water in the inside of the planet is so different than the water that's on the top of the planet. It's like a
Mm,
totally different thing. So it's interesting. I agree though.
very. Yeah, I mean that reminds me of is it the quantum physics theory of like you have the different like reflections of uh I'm not going to be able to explain this very well, but it's like the different dimensions, there's like different dimensional representations of the same thing, like where you have like a line which
Mhm.
is then a triangle in 3D or a cube in 3D, and I'm not explaining it very well, but
I know what
that
you mean.
idea.
Yeah, it's like the dot, then the line, then the square, then the cube. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about with that. And I mean, it does make a lot of sense, right? With the ways that we exist multidimensionally, and
Yeah.
if water has consciousness, then it's got to be existing multidimensionally as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we find out everything is, because I was having a whole thing with the mountains, and so I was seeing them that way too. And it
Mm.
almost looks like they're wearing a shell in the 3D. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating.
Oh my gosh. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. It was fascinating. But we look at them as this like hard rock, dirt, kind of a thing, but and they're a consciousness of themselves.
Mm.
But it's like everything, from the micro to the macro, you can talk about the each grain all the way up to this large mountain that you have, and the aspects of that, the components that create that, they're all different in different things too. But I was seeing that I was working with the mountains, and we were doing something that had to do with creation. So like air was there and water was there, and there was beings there. I was one of them, and we were creating this area where I live right now, which is I guess why I'm so tied to it, and also down in the Sedona area, which is another reason I was tied to that. And we were kind of creating a vortex, and the way that it was going, but they were showing me that there was a time when mountains weren't so rigid. There's almost like a shell over them now in the 3D, that they're an encapsulation of what they were, but this consciousness is still within them, and they're actually a lot more fluid than you would look. It's hard to think of it that way, but if you look at it in terms of, if you were to pull all the dirt away and you were to look at them from an energetic perspective, that's kind of what they looked like, and you could see the energy of them and the consciousness of them, and they were co-creators of the areas that they're in, and
Mm.
they had a lot to do with, and in collaboration with water and air and all of those things. And it was kind of like the resonance of those things together is what brought the specific plants in, the specific trees in, and how those things all coalesced and coexisted based on the resonance that they were trying to create in those places. So it was really interesting, but they're magnificent consciousness, and they talk, which is super super cool. I know I probably sound like a nut job to people, but I've had a couple opportunities to speak and interact with them, and they are very powerful beings, but they're loving, and it's pretty incredible.
Truly. I mean, I love what Beth is saying here. Think of your skin being the largest organ and absorptive. So if you take a bath or get in the ocean and ask for the info, it could literally permeate your skin to your cells. So
Love
true.
that.
I love that. I love that. And we do have Johnny here. Johnny is saying hello. Where did he? Oh, here we go. Hey,
Oh,
John. Good to see you.
hi, honey.
Oh my gosh. Right, Beth, I agree. There's there's a lot to dig into. I when you were talking about the shell, it was almost like I was seeing this vision of like the density getting so thick that they like slowed down to the point where they like kind of
Exactly right.
crusted over.
You've got it. That's exactly right. Yep.
Fascinating. And I mean, we think about our evolution and, we are humans, so we're focused on our growth and our evolution. But remembering that Gaia is also evolving with us, the planet is evolving with us. And that includes all the other beings and the other entities and the consciousnesses that are sharing this space with us. And so I think it'll be really cool to see how the mountains and how the rivers and, all of these other consciousnesses exist in the new world, and how uh, I mean, it's going to be, I think, so cool to be able to interact more with these other beings as we're starting to. More and more people are waking up and becoming aware of the abilities to communicate with them. So I
Yeah.
definitely don't think you're going to sound too crazy to the folks that are here. They are, I think, most of them are probably with us on communicating with mountains and others.
Yeah.
But on the topic of communicating with others, I would love to get into a little bit of like the ET side of things with you too, and maybe some of your own experiences or some experiences that you've seen with clients and help them to understand with kind of beings beyond. I loved how you put it in your book when you were talking about some of your experiences and the someone else explaining to you that if you think about again the vastness of the cosmos, and we think about maybe the amount of like named ETs or like known ET groups, or what we understand is out there, and there's so much more beyond that. And I think most of us probably have at least an inkling of that, but I would love to hear some of your experiences or some of your clients' experiences.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about ETs is that they exist in, other dimensions as well. And they told me that it's not really dimensions. It's kind of like, an allowance for us to have an understanding of what it is, but it really is just like a frequency resonance. And they were showing me that, like, you hear a lot of people. I was confused because I would see a being and I would hear that this being was 7D or 8D, and I was like, wait, I thought that you lose physicality after a certain time. There was people that are experiencers who I trust and I listen to and I find them to be credible that said that to me. And the way that my guidance explained it to me was, um, going back to Brian Greene's book. There's a part in there that they were referencing to me, and what he was saying was, when you're, um, say you're at a racetrack and you're standing still and the driver soars by you really, really fast, just goes right by you. Can you say what the person looked like that was in the vehicle that was going? It's going to kind of just look like a flash to you, right? It's like really, really fast. And what if you could speed that up even more where you couldn't see it? Or if you look at like the blades on your fan, if you turn your ceiling fan up so much, it starts moving. It looks just like a blur to you, right? They were
Hmm.
saying that that is what the particles look like in the higher densities of beings that are spinning. So ours are spinning at a slower rate. But when you go into these higher densities, the rate that these particles, their cellular structure is spinning is at such a faster rate that to us, it would look like they're invisible or that they're not there. But if you were also in a race car on the track and there was a car racing by you, but you were going the exact same speed that they were, and you were running parallel with each other, you could look over and you could say, oh, that guy's got blonde hair, he's wearing sunglasses, he's got a red shirt on, because you're going at the same rate of speed, right? So if you're in 7D, it's going to look like a physicality to you based on the fact that you're molecular structure is spinning at the same rate of speed. But if you're in
Mm.
3D and you're looking, you're not going to see anything because it's too fast. It's too fast for your eyes and you could see it. So that's the explanation to me. I have seen beings that look almost ethereal looking, and I've seen beings that look like light, and I've seen beings that look like they have a body. And the difference between being able to perceive them in that way or not is whether I'm perceiving them from a perspective of 3D or if I'm seeing them in a perspective of a higher frequency. And then I have interacted with, and I do believe I interact with, um, yes, largely yes. That's the answer, Lorianne. The way that my understanding is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the way that it works in these other planes of existence. And they were showing me that it's not so rigid where it's like 3D, 4D, 5D. It's more like a gradient kind of a thing. And it looked like a rainbow to me because it had color as well. And you know how when they blur in between?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that rate. So you could be existing, let's say, in yellow, and you could kind of go into a little bit where it starts to move into orange, but you're still kind of in that. And those could be explained as the different um, dimensions, the different rates of frequency, because they all have a different sound, they all have a different look, they all have a different um, material kind of how dense things are, and based on that as well, physics is going to work differently. So it's not going to work the same as it works for us here. So all those rules that we have, where it's like you can't walk through walls, you can't do that, it's all going to be different because their physics is different based on the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they, have a different existence. So, I mean, if there's a specific one you want me to talk about, I can talk about that. I know that things that we hear about that are like people waking up and they're seeing something in their bed. These are not super high dimensional beings. They have a physicality like we do. They're more like us from somewhere else, in my understanding and perspective. There are some higher density beings that maybe are a little bit higher than us, but they can kind of, like that gradient we were talking about, they can exist in a lower density too. The other ones that are higher density, I think that you would more have an experience with them that would not be physical as much. I did have these Octurians in my room one time, and I could kind of see them and make them out, but not physical like us. But as I was kind of like looking through them, I could make out more who they were or what they were, which is why I knew what they looked like. But in my room, it just almost looked like when heat's rising off the street and you kind of see that energy thing, it was more like outlines like that where you could just see a
Mm-hmm.
disturbance in the thing. It wasn't like just looking straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I was kind of looking through, I was making out their form better, and I could kind of see. It's easier to see through your mind's eye.
Yeah, yeah. And that's fascinating to hear, because I definitely, I think that um, the ways that we think about dimensions is very 3D in a lot of ways. We think about it as being, well, we're here and they're there.
Yeah,
And I run into this a lot with higher selves. And when clients, a lot of times clients come with the question of, well, how do I connect with you more? Like, I want to connect more, and I want more of that wisdom or that guidance. And the response back is always, we are right here, we're not somewhere else, we are right here, we are ready to help when you're ready to receive and you ask for it. And we still have free will, and so they're our guides, our higher selves. Like, they're not going to force us into anything. We are a part of this, we're co-creators. And so I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me, I just had a session where my client was getting this vision of colors and of the chakras, and was explaining exactly that, of like, we think of them as these distinct points, but really they are a one continuous flow, and it's more of that spectrum. And it's even beyond the spectrum of color that we understand, because there's so much more out there. And just because we can't see it in the same way doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And um, yeah, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. I feel like we could talk for a couple more hours, so maybe we'll have to have you back. I definitely want to pull up your site one more time and just remind everyone, thank you, Corbin, for putting it in the chat. But head on over to Lisa's site, visionsbeyondthedesert.com, to learn more about her, to check out her offerings, and to book a session, because it definitely is worth it. And especially if you're someone who is either newer to awakening, newer to visions, or seeing beyond the veil, it can be really overwhelming. And Lisa is clearly great at explaining things and really has a wealth of experience to help interpret and understand. And her channel is very clear. And so if you're looking for some assistance, looking for some support in whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, I highly recommend Lisa. And same thing with the meditations. If you're interested in growing that practice more, even if you have been meditating, I have to imagine that Lisa can help you take it to the next level as well, which I think meditation is really just working on your mind and working on how you experience reality, and helping to stretch it beyond. And I think is such a valuable offering. So also, while we're on the topic, group past life regression workshop, make sure you guys check that out. I'm so excited to bring this offering to you guys. I think that a lot of times people have, again, misunderstandings about what the experience might be, or they have fears around what it might be. And this is a really safe space for you to come in, low stakes. It's only $22, and get a little taste of what a session might be, and understand a little bit about what past lives can look like, how that might show up for you, and also do some inner work and do some releasing, which I think we are being called to at this time. The other announcement that I have is make sure to join me next week, because like this week, I talk too much and I have a lot that I want to share. And so sharing kind of the second part of my awakening journey, sharing my first hypnosis experience, sharing some of my dream and meditation experiences, as well as some of my visions beyond the veil. And so make sure you guys check it out next week. I'll be live on Friday, 3 p.m. same time. And of course, check out my website if you want to book a hypnosis session with me. I offer a couple different session types, as well as free consultations, which you are welcome to book and ask me any questions you might have, get my opinion on what might be the best option for you, whether you're looking to delve into the past or the future, or parallel lives, or your current life. So yeah, definitely make sure you check that out. And Lisa, any last messages, any last comments, anything you want to share with the audience around you, your practice, anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I loved your live, and I will definitely be tuning in to the next one. I hope it doesn't. I was just thinking, I hope that doesn't conflict with anything with my kids, so I can so I can watch it. But anyway, it was an extraordinary and just beautiful for you to open up the way that you did. Um, but I think the biggest takeaway is that, I want people to feel empowered, and I want it's cool to hear other people's stories and the things that they experience that maybe you haven't yet. But it doesn't mean you won't, or something even more incredible or amazing. And I really want people to understand that, because I see a lot of that where it seems like people kind of, oh, I wish I could experience this or experience that. And I feel that, we all have things to unlock. We're just starting. We're just kind of getting to the place where we're open to these experiences, which is the most important part, is being open, and then allowing for the information to come in and just sit with it. Even if it sounds a little crazy, see what resonates, and see what you can do. But if you are inclined, if you're curious about something that somebody could get for you, I would be happy to look and see what it is, especially if you're struggling with meditation, because I really believe that meditation is the key, to getting yourself into a place where you can start unlocking more information for yourself. We're so conditioned to be in our 3D world. You really have to kind of step out of that a little bit in order to be able to open up and see what else is out there. My meditation consultation will have an initial sit down. We'll discuss kind of what you're either having a problem with, or if you haven't tried, I can give you some things to work on. We will meet up again, and that will be part of the consultation when we meet up again to see how you're doing and what you did. And then we can decide from there if this is something that you want to work with me and you want to do them. We can do it. We can meditate together. We can just do check-ins. It's kind of up to you, but it's just a matter of getting you to the place where you feel empowered to do it for yourself, because that's really what I want is for people. You don't need a guru. You don't need somebody else to do things for you. You can do these things for yourself. You just, not all of us have the tools. That's all. And, if we can get to the place where we can all have the tools to meditate and reach out to our own guidance, it would be amazing. And who knows what we could do as a society like that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the things that a lot of people do struggle with is that trust piece and remaining open. Because especially when you're first starting out, whether it be meditation, or I see this as well in sessions where sometimes people can shut down what they're getting because it's either not what they expected, or it's scary and they're unfamiliar, usually not like actually frightening, but unfamiliar. And I think that's where having a guide, having a buddy, having someone who's trod that path before you, just give you a little bit of encouragement, give you a couple tips. And I think that's the beauty of us working together more as a collective, because
Yeah.
we don't all need to do the same work. We can share and build off of each other, and think of how much farther we can get when we're working
Right.
together versus trying to bulldoze through ourselves.
Yeah, it's incredible. And having, so many people that are here to kind of help to walk people through, you know, this door and that door, so you can start opening your mind to all of these things. If we can do that for each other and just kind of hold space for each other to be able to find our way, man, it's exciting to think about where we could be in the next 20 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we're already on that path. And I
Yeah.
think it's only accelerating, and it really is such an exciting time for us to be alive. And I mean, we we barely touched the topic of past lives, which was the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So we're gonna have you back on. uh Lori Ann said yes, part 2, so we've got at least
Oh,
Lori Ann behind us.
thanks.
um but yes, thank you so much, Lisa. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time. And definitely, folks, make sure you check out Lisa's website, book a session with her. Whatever you're looking for guidance on, Lisa can help you out. So,
Thank you, Jake. This was fun, and you have a great audience. Everybody was so nice. My husband's in there doing all the chats too, so I could see that. I wonder if he noticed I cut my hair.
I know, I wonder. I wonder. Did he see? Did
Oh
he,
my
did
gosh.
he notice?
I
We'll
don't
see.
know. We'll see. If I get a text after this, then yes.
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and catch you all next week. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.